Someone asked a question recently about what happens to the personality after awakening. They shared that they had moments of experiencing an open-handed beingness, and that felt very liberating, but mostly found themselves reacting to life from a place of habitual traits, personality traits. And they had recently read about astrology, and in reading about their astrological profile, were amazed how descriptive that was about their particular way of responding and reacting to life, and so started to feel very trapped by their astrological configuration. They asked me, does awakening make astrology obsolete? Does awakening make the personality obsolete? There was a thread of hope in that question. The question itself needs to be examined. The self that is asking the question is the very same one as the self we are trying to get rid of. That self is the story maker, the one that creates a story of poor me or lucky me, depending on life's circumstances. The one, the story maker, that creates itself from a core belief in separation. The one that believes it has been born as a separate entity into a hostile and alien world that is separate from existence, and therefore has to fight for what it wants, for what it needs, has to reject what it doesn't want, what it doesn't like, and therefore lives in a world of reactivity. That reactivity is tightness, that reactivity is closedness, that reactivity is hardness, and at some point is seen to be the source of psychological suffering. And so there is then the desire, the seeking to get rid of it in order to transcend suffering. The problem is that the one who is trying to get rid of something is the same one. It's trying to get rid of itself. And that creates a whole cascade of issues on the seeking path. Cascade of hidden problems, because the one who is trying to get rid of itself is also invested in its own survival. So we have a conundrum there. The second thing is that asking the question from the same paradigm from which the problem was created does not lead to an intelligent answer. So let's look a little more closely at the issue of the story maker. The story maker is both the one who is asking the question and is also the one that we're trying to get rid of, and is also the one that is trying to find the answer. The story maker worships a false god. It worships the god of one day I will be perfect. One day I will be perfectly happy. One day I will be perfectly loved. One day I will be perfectly safe. One day I will be perfectly recognized. Whether it's the pursuit of wealth or recognition, success, or relationship, or spirituality, the story maker is praying to an image of itself as the perfect one, and then blindly chases that image in order to claim it for itself. In other words, the story maker is living in the duality or polarity of savior and saved. Savior, the image that it has created, the false god it has created of itself as the perfect one day. And the saved, the sinner who is imperfect, that wants to be perfect, that wants to be saved. When it comes to spirituality, the image that is created is the one who is perfectly enlightened. That is a transcendent view that erases humanity. It's called spiritual bypassing. So this image that is created, this false god that is worshipped, is a fantasy, is an imagination. The story maker lives in fantasy. And this fantasy diverts, distorts, hijacks, and delays the true path to inner peace, the true path to inner fulfillment. And this leads us down a rabbit hole of non-dual beliefs. Called spiritual bypassing. The true path to inner peace, the true path to inner fulfillment, is the path of deep acceptance, is the path of love. Love does not fight. Love does not oppose. Love does not reject. Love does not attempt to change or fix. Love is tender. Love is open. Love is soft. Love is inclusive. This love is the same as clear seeing. It is not a weakness. It is a strength. This love is the same as clarity. Love and clarity lead to wisdom. Clear seeing. Love sees God in everything. Love sees godliness in everything. Love sees that everything is born of the one. There is no separation. In no separation, there is no need to create a story. Because there is no me standing outside of existence, of life, trying to reject or get or grasp or push away. And so the story maker has no place to take root. In love, it's the end of the story maker. There is no need in love for an image of perfection, because there is no fantasy in love, there is no imagination in love. It is the clear seeing of what is here, simple, naked, as it is. So there is no need in love for the creation of an inner critic. The inner critic that says that we are not good enough, not loved enough, not successful enough, not happy enough, and so on. Not spiritual enough, not enlightened enough. There is no inner critic. I was speaking with someone just the other day about this very point. What we came to in our conversation was that it was okay not to like something. We were talking about aging and how she struggled with the aging process. That tricky little transition, 40s, 50s, where suddenly the hair is going grey or the eyesight is failing and so on. She didn't like it, but her inner critic was telling her that that wasn't spiritual. And so this fantasy was created of not being good enough. And this worshipping of that false god. One day I will be good enough, I will be spiritual enough. But to just see clearly how the inner critic is a fabrication of the imagination. To see clearly that liking and disliking have nothing to do with openness. Have nothing to do with love. You don't have to like wearing reading glasses. But when there's no inner critic, then that not liking can be light. It's a light touch. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything about you. Everything becomes light. There's a softening. There's a tenderness to what is here. So what changes in this clear seeing, which is the same as acceptance of what is here? What changes? The hard shell of what we call personality, which is a bunch of personality traits based on reactiveness, starts to soften. There is no avoidance of the inner experience, the experience of what is here. There is no rejection. There is no attempt to transcend it, to move away from it. So the hardness, the tightness of reactivity the attempt to be more perfect, all this starts to soften. It's like the polishing of the surface of a crystal. It starts to become lighter, shinier, brighter. There is no distortion of clear seeing. The naked fact of what is here in this experience. In this lightness, what we call personality, what we call astrological traits, start to lose their meaning. What remains is your sacred geometry. What remains is your uniqueness. What remains is the unique imprint that is created at the very moment of your entry into this world of form. That is unique to you. It's like a geometrical pattern through which your life flows. It's your soul's purpose, your divine destiny. It is much deeper, much more inner than personality traits which are on the surface. As the surface starts to soften, then your deeper uniqueness, your deeper patterning starts to flow unimpeded through your life. Your uniqueness does not become obsolete. Your reactivity does. The question becomes, or changes, from how or will I be more perfect? When will I be more perfect? It changes from that to how can I more deeply open to what is here in my experience? It's not a matter of finding an answer to the question that is asked by the self, which is how can I get rid of myself? It's more about a transformation of the question that happens naturally. As we start to open to what is here, without concern for the self and whether it is good enough or not good enough, perfect enough or not perfect enough, spiritual enough or not spiritual enough. So the question becomes, how can I more deeply open to what is here in my experience? This question is the pointer in the right direction to true inner peace, to true inner fulfillment. It stops being a self-centered question and starts being a God-centered question. And now, with this new question, there is a real possibility to awaken out of the trance of separate self.